Hey folks, welcome to week 14. I will share my screen and get right to it. Let's get the right thing up there. So we're in week 14, and this week you'll be reading Feldman's essay, Galaxy-Wide Writing Strategies Used by Official Star Wars Bloggers, from chapter 7 of Writing About Writing. So this is actually a student paper in a composition class at the University of Central Florida, written back in 2017, and it was actually published in their Journal of Undergraduate Research in first-year composition courses. So Feldman takes a different approach to this discourse community assignment. She actually looks in particular, instead of just looking at the Star Wars fandom as a whole, she goes beyond this typical assignment and examines how one text, the StarWars.com blog, contributes to community formation. So there's a link here to the StarWars.com news plus blog. You can click on that in your e-text and check that out if you want to. I haven't done that yet, but it's just an interesting community that she takes a look at, and an interesting perspective that she has in her approach to the assignment, where she examines the effectiveness of the writing in the blog. So a couple of things to take away from that is, first of all, it's good to understand that she weaves together not only Swale's ideas or the criteria of what constitutes a discourse community, she also goes to Porter's idea of intertext. I don't think that I required, oh, where am I? I don't think that I required Porter to be read. Let me get this ebook up again. So if that's something that you're curious about as far as intertextuality, Porter's article was Intertextuality in the Discourse Community. And he plays with the ideas of authorship, originality, and plagiarism. I was thinking about requiring this, but I don't think I required you to read it. But he has an interesting examination of intertextuality, that the idea that all texts contain traces of other texts, and that there can be no text that does not draw on some ideas from some other texts. So this is related to the ideas that Feldman is using in her essay, this whole concept of intertextuality. And her argument is that contributing to a discourse community is all about achieving common goals through member connectivity. So again, I provide this as an example for you. We had the other student example of Brannick and the football coaches, and here Feldman is examining the blogging of the StarWars.com or the Star Wars fandom. So that gives you another perspective and perhaps another way that you can approach this assignment. So the takeaways there are, what constitutes successful writing is shaped by the goals and values of the particular discourse community in which that writing is shared. So if you think about the Star Wars fandom, they have a particular set of values and a particular, actually any kind of fandom really, particular set of values and particular goals that they want to achieve, and that intertextual references are one way of building connections between writers and readers that are members of the discourse community. So with blogging, blogging is very dependent on the readers actually actively engaging with the content through comments I blogged for a number of years about a bunch of different things that were going on in my life. And then I closed my blog down because it just got to be too much to interact with my readership. And, I had just a lot of things going on in my life. So I really couldn't spend the time that I would have needed to build this community of people who have common goals and common ideas and values. But you have those intertextual references. Blogging often, somebody will write a blog post in response to what another blogger wrote or what an article in, a newspaper or a publication may have said. And that blogger has their own ideas and opinions. And then you have this whole idea of discourse in a particular community where people are commenting and pulling in other ideas. So that's where that whole concept of intertextuality comes into play. So that is the reading for this week. I hope that you find it interesting. And let me get my stuff together here. So I'll get back to the Blackboard page when I share my screen. Here we go. So the to-do list is to watch this video. Obviously, you're watching it right now. Read the Feldman essay. And then we have a discussion board, which is taken right from the questions at the end of the essay, the Feldman essay. This is Lexis and responsibilities. So from the applying and exploring ideas questions, I chose this one. Feldman argues that members of a discourse community have a responsibility to use the community's lexis. Why does she say so? Does it seem strange to you to imagine a writer having a responsibility to hold a community together with their work? And can you think of an experience you've had in creating or contributing to texts for a discourse community you belong to that gave you similar responsibility? So make sure that your answers, of course, are thoughtful responses to these questions, and not simply yes or no answers. I want you to think deeply so that you can engage your peers in a discussion about discourse community and about Feldman's perspective in her essay. Your initial post is worth 6 points, and that is due Sunday the 17th. And then you have your follow-up responses to 2 peers, which is 4 points or 2 points per peer. And that's due on Thursday, the 21st. Then, of course, we have the second rough draft due. So the first rough draft, you had your introduction pretty much set, your thesis that's been revised, as well as some of your data collection and analysis. That was last week. This week, I am asking for your rough draft to be this full paper with your works cited or whatever references, as well as any appendices. If you do an interview, make sure that you have your questions, your interview questions. You don't have to provide the transcript, but at least the interview questions in an appendix. So that'll be due April 17th. One word about the interviews. Some of you have said, do we have to do the interviews? The interviews are absolutely optional. I think it's a good idea if you have the time and you have access to somebody within the discourse community that you've chosen. However, it's not a requirement. Instead, you might look for documentaries to observe a certain discourse community, or you can look to YouTube videos. Perhaps there's an interview of somebody within that community so that you get some idea. But interviewing, again, it can be difficult. You might not have the time. However, interviews also don't have to be face-to-face. They could be done over Zoom. If you can't travel to meet with a person, you could arrange a Zoom meeting or some other digital conferencing platform that you have access to. You could use a phone interview if that's something you're comfortable with, or you could interview through email. So, don't let the idea that you can't access a person face-to-face put you off. You can send them an email, of course, asking their permission, explaining what the project is all about. But again, it's not a requirement. There can be substitutions as far as gathering data and observing and getting information about the discourse community. Documentaries, again, and YouTube can be a good resource. I've heard from several students who have come across interviews on YouTube. So that can be another mode of gathering your information, gathering your data. But you can also look online to see if there are published interviews, written published interviews. That could be another way of gathering information and gathering data about your particular discourse community. So if you're still struggling with that kind of collecting of data through observations and that kind of thing, please contact me and I will try to troubleshoot with you. I've had a few students reach out and say, hey, I'm kind of struggling here. I don't have a car, so I can't go and interview the person. There are alternatives, right? You can do different things. The interview is not a requirement. It's highly suggested, but it's not a requirement. I know that not everybody's comfortable with interviews and that kind of thing. So it's not a problem. So anyway, that is the end of the requirements. Again, look for things to be due on Sunday, the 17th. And your follow-up responses to the discussion board post to peers is Thursday, the 21st. Stay in touch with me. I know this is the end of the semester and things are probably getting pretty hairy for you in your other classes, exams to prepare for and that kind of thing. And to have this due at the end is probably unfair of me, but it is what it is. So we'll try to make the best of it. Again, don't freak out too much. And if you're having struggles, we do have finals week where you can play catch up and hopefully get everything in before I have to get the final grades submitted. So just stay in touch with me. Let me know what's up if you are a little bit behind. If you don't think you'll make the deadline for the submission assignment submission, just let me know what's up and we can make an arrangement. Okay. Take care, everybody. Have a fantastic week. Bye-bye.